into a trade of backsliding. If, upon thy plastering thyself, thou findest thyself rather animated to the battle again than utterly weaned from it, it is too palpable that thou hast been at work with thine own soul, but Jesus Christ and his Spirit were not there. Yea, and oftentimes nature having done its work, will, ere a few days are over, come for its reward, and, having been active in the work of healing, will be ready to reason for a new wounding. In God's speaking peace there comes along so much sweetness and such a discovery of his love as is a strong obligation on the soul no more to deal perversely. 3. We speak peace to ourselves when we do it slightly. This the prophet complains of in some teachers, Jeremiah 6:14. They have healed the hurt of the daughter of my people slightly. And it is so with some persons. They make the healing of their wounds a slight work. A look, a glance of faith to the promises does it, and so the matter is ended. The apostle tells us that the word did not profit some, because it was not mixed with faith, Hebrews 4:2. Me sunkekramenos, it was not well tempered and mingled with faith. It is not a mere look to the word of mercy in the promise, but it must be mingled with faith until it is incorporated into the very nature of it, and then indeed it doth good unto the soul. If thou hast had a wound upon thy conscience, which was attended with weakness and disquietness, which now thou art freed of, how camest thou so? I looked to the promises of pardon and healing, and so found peace. Yea, but perhaps thou hast made too much haste, thou hast done it overtly, thou hast not fed upon the promise so as to mix it with faith, to have got all the virtue of it diffused into thy soul, only thou hast done it slightly. Thou wilt find thy wound, ere it be long, breaking out again, and thou shalt know that thou art not cured. 4. Whoever speaks peace to himself upon one account, and at the same time hath another evil of no less importance lying upon his spirit, about which he hath had no dealing with God, that man cries peace when there is none. A little to explain my meaning. A man hath neglected a duty again and again, perhaps when in all righteousness it was due from him. His conscience is perplexed, his soul wounded. He hath no quiet in his bones by reason of his sin. He applies himself for healing and finds peace. Yet in the meantime, perhaps, worldliness or pride or some other folly wherewith the Spirit of God is exceedingly grieved may lie in the bosom of that man, and they neither disturb him nor he them. Let not that man think that any of his peace is from God. Then shall it be well with men, when they have an equal respect to all God's commandments. God will justify us from our sins, but he will not justify the least sin in us. He is a God of purer eyes than to behold iniquity. 5. When men of themselves speak peace to their consciences, it is seldom that God speaks humiliation to their souls. God's peace is a humbling peace, melting peace, as it was in the case of David. Never such deep humiliation as when Nathan brought him the tidings of his pardon. But you will say, when may we take the comfort of a promise as our own, in relation to some peculiar wound for the quieting the heart? First and general, when God speaks it, be it when it will, sooner or later. I told you before, he may do it in the very instant of the sin itself, and that with such irresistible power that the soul must needs receive his mind in it. Sometimes he will make us wait longer. But when he speaks, be it sooner or later, be it when we are sinning or repenting, be the condition of our souls what they please, if God speak, he must be received. There is not anything that, in our communion with him, the Lord is more troubled with us for, if I may say so, than our unbelieving fears, that keep us off from receiving that strong consolation which he is so willing to give us. But you will say, we are where we were. When God speaks it, we must receive it. That is true. But how shall we know when he speaks? 1. I would we could all practically come up to this, to receive peace when we are convinced that God speaks it, and that it is our duty to receive it. But, 2. There is, if I may so say, a secret instinct in faith, whereby it knows the voice of Christ when he speaks indeed. As the babe leaped in the womb when the Blessed Virgin came to Elizabeth, faith leaps in the heart when Christ indeed draws nigh to it. My sheep, says Christ, know my voice, John 10:4. They know my voice, they are used to the sound of it, and they know when his lips are open to them and are full of grace. The spouse was in a sad condition, Canticles 5:2, asleep in security, but yet as soon as Christ speaks, she cries, "It is the voice of my beloved that speaks." She knew his voice, and was so acquainted with communion with him, that instantly she discovers him, and so will you also. If you exercise yourselves to acquaintance and communion with him, you will easily discern between his voice and the voice of a stranger. And take this kriterion with you. When he doth speak, he speaks as never man spake. He speaks with power, and one way or other will make your hearts burn within you, as he did to the disciples, Luke 24. He doth it by putting in his hand at the hole of the door, Canticles 5:4. His Spirit into your hearts to seize on you. He that hath his senses exercised to discern good or evil, being increased in judgment and experience by a constant observation of the ways of Christ's intercourse, the manner of the operations of the Spirit, and the effects it usually produceth, is the best judge for himself in this case. Secondly, if the word of the Lord doth good to your souls, he speaks it. If it humble, if it cleanse, and be useful to those ends for which promises are given, namely, to endear, to cleanse, to melt, and bind to obedience, to self-emptiness, etc. But this is not my business, nor shall I further divert in the pursuit of this direction. Without the observation of it, sin will have great advantages towards the hardening of the heart. End of chapter 13.